guess sometimes talking is just not enough and you just want to scream about it.
On this episode of Shofa, we're joined by Muna, a former lawyer turned content creator, wellness advocate, and London-based founder of the Scream Squad, the community that brought hundreds of Londoners together to scream, release, and to connect. Known as London's Scream Queen, Muna has brought hundreds of people together to scream in parks and public places, turning a therapist's suggestion into a movement for emotional release. Screaming is only a part of Muna's story. Drawing on her background in law, she's built a platform centered on wellness, running, and authenticity, while proudly sharing her Iraqi heritage and the experiences that have shaped her. Muna, welcome to Shofa.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here on Shofa, where we decide whether we should give our hearts to you. Tell us a little bit about the Scream Squad experience. What was it like being London's certified Scream Queen?
Oh, it was a whirlwind. So I was sat in my room having a bit of a crash out, as one does in their 20s. I had previously quit my job, moved back in with my brothers. Things were a bit like rocky. Job market was shambolic. Love life shambolic. Like life in general was just a show. And I just went on my phone and saw that people in America were like screaming by a park or a lake or something. And I thought it was absolutely hilarious, but also felt so on brand for something that I wanted to do with my own time. And I was like, whacked out my phone, pulled out TikTok, made a video and just said, who wants to come scream with me? And to my surprise, 1,000 people showed up to Primrose Hill literally within 2-3 days of me making that video. Yeah, and then we just all screamed together.
Insane.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. And did you expect all these people to show up or?
Absolutely not.
No.
Like, you know, when you make a TikTok, it's just like for fun. It's just a little bit of a
You and the
giggle. It's just
camera.
a little laugh. Like it's all, it's tongue cheek. It's just a bit of banter. It's just a bit of fun. You don't actually think anything's going to come from it. To my like surprise, when I showed up, I was only expecting maybe one person, if I'm being honest. And I had a journalist from the BBC reach out to me saying they wanted to come along and film the whole thing. And I felt like I was wasting their time. And
Wow.
I was just like, guys, like no one's going to show up. Like there's no point. And he was such a lovely guy. And he was saying, oh, if no one shows up, you and I can just scream together. And I was like, I'm game. And we showed up and there was already a few people there. It was like about 20 minutes before the official scream was going to happen. And there were just all these girls like going like, oh, are you Muna? And I'm just like, yeah, you guys here to scream? And they were like, yeah. And so it was just a few girls at the beginning. And it was predominantly women who showed up, which is something that I would love to talk a bit more about later.
Yeah.
But I looked up and all of a sudden like people were walking up Primrose Hill. And I was just like, there's no way everyone's here for this.
Wow.
And then I just blink and there's hundreds of people around me. And people are showing up screaming as well. And
They're walking up the hill,
screaming. And I was just like, what is going on?
Wow.
And it was just crazy. And then the sun was setting. And then we did like a countdown of like 3, 2, 1. And we all screamed together. And because I was so unprepared for the number of people attending, I lost complete control of the crowds. And everyone was just screaming and like screaming at each other and like running around screaming. People were screaming for like 30, 40 minutes straight.
Wow.
So I got so overwhelmed. I just left.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, so fair,
I had dinner plans. I was like, guys, this was just supposed to be like a 10-minute thing. Like we scream and go. But no, people stayed and screamed. And I was just like in complete shock. And the journalist that I came with, he was just like, his face, he looked over at me and when we looked at each other, I was just like, what is going on? It was just one of the most random nights of my life. But yeah, that was how it started.
That's so crazy. Actually, you touched on that. I was going to ask you about it. Like, it's so many people and it's you kind of leading the whole thing, which you did so gracefully, by the way. I saw that and you did that beautifully. But were you scared? Like,
I was terrified. I bet scared. I think a lot of content creators will relate to this when I say that the numbers don't feel like people when you're on your phone. So when I was getting like hundreds of thousands of views and likes on these like Scream Squad videos, it wasn't resonating in my mind that these were real people interacting with it. And it wasn't until I was standing there surrounded by people who had watched me make those videos and it made me realize, oh wow, like social media is not just something on my phone. This is like real. These are real people who have real reasons that they resonated with this and want to come out and scream. As much as it was like exciting and just mind-blowing, it was so overwhelming. It's just like,
I bet,
showing up by myself. Like I had dinner plans, I was like wearing boots, I had my hair done, I was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna like show up to this thing that I started and then leave. But it was absolutely insane.
And tell me a little bit more about what you wanted to say. Why it was predominantly, I saw that it was predominantly women, and which is so interesting. And I think for me personally, unsurprising, but tell me your thoughts about that.
Yeah, so there were a lot of women that showed up, and I thought that was just down to the fact that mainly women would interact with my content to begin with. But I got speaking to a lot of the people who showed up, and in London at the time, a lot of this always kind of circulates around wintertime and like seasonal depression and whatnot. And the subject of the loneliness epidemic was really like big at the time. A lot of the time when we see it in the context of male loneliness. But what that event in itself showed me was that it wasn't just an issue that was isolated to men. It was like a whole community issue.
Absolutely.
Especially within major cities like London. A lot of the people were feeling major disconnect from community. There was a lack of affordable third spaces, not enough initiatives for people to come together in an affordable and also accessible way. So it made me realize that there was this deep yearning for community, this need for people to come together and not have so much pressure associated with it as well. Because we do have run clubs, we do have paddle clubs, but something I've noticed is that you have to join, there's a joining fee for run clubs now.
Really?
For some run clubs. And I was like,
wow.
Why am I paying a joining fee to go run a route that I could just, do myself? Like, there's no point. So I think there's just a deep frustration with the way communities are being monetized in London especially, and people just not having anywhere to like hang out with their friends or even to meet new people in organic ways. So this Scream Club kind of helped foster community in that way, and it was surprising for me to see that kind of come about from that, because I just thought it was going to be people like myself who wanted to come and just let out some frustration and release that pent-up stress that you can't really get from just talking to your friends. Sometimes you get that pent-up rage and you just need to let it all out. But it was really nice to see people who came saying that the reason they came was because they were struggling to make new friends and they thought this would be a fun, quirky way to meet new people, which it was. And a lot of them were women, and like I was saying, women are really struggling a bit to find their people, to make friends, and especially if they're moving to a city like London, it's so daunting. And I, for myself, can't speak for people who've moved here because I've been brought up here. I like London is home. So I've never really struggled with the loneliness aspect of it. But it was really interesting to see how other women who had moved to the city and how they were handling it and how they were navigating being in such a big city that also felt so extremely lonely at the same time. So it was really nice to have them tell me that they appreciated someone starting something so unconventional to help foster the friendships that they made through that night, which was crazy.
That's amazing. Absolutely. I was actually speaking to someone about this the other day, the accessibility aspect of what you were saying. They were just saying, this guy lived in New York and he was saying, I can go up to a record shop in New York and talk to the guy and ask about like what events they have on or like what events around the area. And it's just so accessible. And the argument was that in London, people just don't share those spaces, and like you said, like it's conditional. Either it's like a financial or it's more cliquey. So I just find it so cool that you did that and you let these people have that space. And I saw some of the videos. It's amazing. It's like women from everywhere. So.
Yeah, it was insane.
So cool. Speaking about your upbringing in London, how was it like being little Muna in the UK?
Where do we even start? I would say it was a very mixed upbringing, I would say. I grew up in Guildford for the first half of my born and bred in Guildford. Big up Surrey.
Let's go.
Let's go Surrey. I'm definitely one of those Surrey girls who are like, I'm from London. I'm just like, yeah, no, you're not. You're from Guildford, babes.
Hey, look, you're self-aware about it. So
at least I'm self-aware. But yeah, I grew up with two brothers. I'm the middle child. My parents are both Iraqi. My dad has been here since the 80s and my mum's been here since the 90s. So roots have been set. And yeah, I grew up in quite a nice way, I would say, but it was also very mixed culturally. So I think this is like so cliche of someone from the diaspora to say, but I did grow up in like a dual way where I had at home Arab household, Arab culture and traditions, and then at school it was British cultures and British traditions, and finding your way and navigating through that was quite difficult, I would say, as a young child. Also, when you're young, you don't really understand these dynamics, and you don't really understand like why certain things feel strange or foreign, or why people are treating you a certain way. And it isn't until you're much older that you have the vocabulary and the knowledge to understand what it is that you went through as a child. So like at the time, I remember I just wrote it off as other people being weird with me. Like I just my little child brain was just like, oh, this is just weird. This is just silly. Like it's
like
fine.
you didn't internalize it.
I didn't internalize it. Yeah,
wow,
I just thought it was like,
you,
and I was just like, oh, nilly dilly, like having my time of my life and just ignoring it. And I always used to think it was nothing deeper than it actually was. And it wasn't until I was probably like, I remember it specifically coming from a teacher. I was probably 8 or 9, and I was having a falling out with my girl group. Imagine 8 or 9 and you have a girl group, but you know your friends at school.
Yeah.
So dramatic, even from youth.
We had so many of those, by the way.
So many dramas.
Yeah.
And I remember I had a falling out, and my teacher saw me like by myself, and she was like, oh, is everything okay? Like, what's happened? And I just said, oh yeah, they just don't want to play with me today. And then she said something that had never crossed my mind. Like I was 9, and she says, is it because of your caramel skin? And I was like 9, and I just remember thinking, what? Point blank. And that was probably my first ever time like experiencing like direct racism, I would say.
Where was she from?
She was just an English woman. Yeah, she was my year 3 teacher. Can't remember her name, but I just remember.
Yeah, we're not calling her out today.
Yeah, I'm just like, not today.
People might want to come after her.
Dang. That was I would say my first like direct experience with racism, and I was like 9 years old, and it took me like a couple of years later to kind of understand what happened, because even then I just wrote it off. I was just like, no, miss, it's not that.
You're like, don't be silly, weirdo.
Don't be silly.
Wait, so did you go back to your parents and tell them? No. So you registered it only surfacely, and then now as your, wow.
And then when I probably was like 15, 14, and I started experiencing more direct racism from, again, it was always from teachers, which was weird. Like,
wow.
Never really from my peers or from like people on the streets. It was always from teachers. So I do remember just internalizing it not in a like, oh, they hate me because I'm Arab. It was more so like, they just hate me because I'm me. And it took me so long to just accept that I was going to always be seen as different, despite having been brought up and born in this country my whole life, because it took me so long to just realize that they did see me as different, even though I had been here. I was like, this is all I know. So yeah, I remember it just being a really weird time for me to adjust to that, because even though I knew I was Middle Eastern, even though I knew I had that, my parents were very firm with me, saying like, no, you belong here, like this is your home, this is where you're from. I'd been to Iraq like 3 times in my life. Before 9 I had never been before. It was really just my parents being so firm with me, saying like, no, you're British, you're from here, don't let anyone take that away from you. So yeah, it took me a while to actually understand, oh wait, they're never going to see me as fully British. And that's kind of when I started leaning a bit more into this idea that I don't need to be either or, I can just exist.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
And did it feel at the time to you malicious, or did it feel more like ignorant, or how was because I know you said you didn't really register it, but how did it make you feel in the moment? Less of their intention and more of your reaction?
I guess because like I have the added layer of having ADHD. I got diagnosed when I was 11, and people who are on the spectrum have this strong sense of justice. It's like inbuilt in us. So I remember when it was happening, I would just go, that's not fair, that's not fair. But I didn't have the understanding of what was actually happening to me. So when I was being singled out in amongst my peers, I remember there was a story that everyone found hilarious, like retrospectively. But I remember at the time it was so deeply traumatizing. Like we had this kind of Christmas fair where we would be put in groups and we had to make something or have a stall to sell stuff for charity. So me and these two other girls were like, we're going to make friendship bracelets. And I remember one of the older girls came to our table and she was like, I want a bracelet that says Willy on it. And,
Right,
and I was just like,
Yeah.
lol, okay, we'll do that for you.
Okay, bad girl of the group.
I was literally like, okay, pop off queen, whatever. But we were just like, it's for charity, let's just make it. So I'm just making this bracelet. And then the next day we have to give out the bracelets to the people who bought them. So I gave the bracelet for this girl to my tutor, basically. So he read it and he just started screaming at me in front of everyone. And I was just so shocked and confused. And I was like, but I remember just saying like, but it wasn't just me. Like I remember specifically saying, but I didn't even make the bracelet. I just gave it to you. Don't shoot the messenger. But out of the group, I was the only one that was given a detention. And I was put on a behavior report as well.
That's so weird.
And I remember just crashing out to my teachers because I was like, I wasn't the only one. It wasn't even me. And when none of the other girls got any telling off, I think that's when it really clocked to me.
I'm different.
Wow. And I think the reason why it took me so long to accept that was because I did go to a school. So I went to a boarding school that was mixed. It was an all-girls school, but like in terms of there were people from everywhere.
Right.
So I was just like, I'm in a like diverse space. Like this isn't something that I should have to deal with. And it wasn't even on my mind, like the idea of like racism and me being different. But I do remember that's when it really clicked with me. And I was 13 years old. And that kind of just really altered my perception of people, especially like when it's coming from teachers who are supposed to be your safeguarders. I think that's when my perception on even adults really switched. And then I remember from that point onward, I just never felt safe in school. And I don't know if you can relate to it, but our parents, they have this mindset that teachers are always right.
Right.
And because my parents weren't around, they were in the Middle East. And I would tell them like, oh, this happened. They were like, but Baba,
listen to
your teacher. Your teacher is always in the right. I remember just being like, feeling so confused and so alone. So that was kind of like, I would say really shaped my early childhood and early years. And I don't feel like I found proper footing in life until way much later, like when I probably turned like, if I'm being real, 25.
Fair enough. Yeah. I'm still finding my footing.
Finding my footing, yeah.
But that's so intense. And did you ever speak to your parents about it later on? Did you like go through what happened?
We did. We spoke about it a lot, and it was a difficult thing for my parents to navigate as well. Like my parents don't come from like particularly wealthy backgrounds. So everything my parents gave me was completely different to the life that they lived. So they didn't really understand the British public school system, which can be like as prestigious as it is, it can be really difficult to navigate for those people who are just entering it. So they just thought, oh, we've put our daughter into a good school. That's it.
She's got the best situation possible going for her right now.
Exactly. So they just thought that's it. But they didn't realize there were like these internal like rules and politics, and that there are kids that are going to get away with things because their parents bought like the library and built something in the school, like are not just paying school fees but doing additional. So like this was something that my parents didn't really understand, and they were just so like happy and ready for the fact that they gave their children such an amazing privilege, which it was. But because of these internal politics, because of racism, because of these small microaggressions that I had to navigate as a child, like my parents always thought that I was being ungrateful, and it wasn't until I was an adult and I shared to them the extent of what I went through did they fully appreciate the fact that it wasn't maybe the best decision or situation. And I think it for a lot of people as well, when they meet me and they know that I went to like a big boarding school, they just have this assumption that, oh, you're just a spoiled rich girl, like you've just had it so easy, you must have had the best time ever. And I was like, Actually,
let me tell you something.
And it was kind of like, it always felt invalidating, and it always felt like something that I couldn't really speak on, or something that I had to like hide, because it's almost as if like people like say you can't have a problem because you had this privilege. And that was the struggle of why I kind of kept it to myself for so long, because I just had it ingrained in my head. Just be grateful, you're here, you're in the space. But that experience alone taught me from a very young age that just being in the space is not enough. And yeah, it kind of just set the tone for how I wanted to proceed later in adult life. And it turned me into a very outspoken person, which I'm really proud of, because I feel like a lot of people would have possibly like shied away. But I remember as a child, I was always like very abrasive and I was very outspoken. I definitely got that from my dad. So,
Allah khalilik, yeah.
Thank you. And yeah, so I just felt like if I didn't have that aspect of my personality, I probably would have been swallowed alive and just gone with the wind.
I love the way that you're talking about it. It's so cool, actually, because I can tell from the way you're talking about it, one, that you obviously haven't been swallowed by it, regardless of, I'm sure, how painful it might have been. I can only imagine. But I love the way you're also talking about it with regards to your parents, because, you know, there is acknowledgement that it wasn't the best situation that you were in and that they didn't understand. But there's also a lot of understanding in your voice about like where they were at when they put you in that. And I think that to me, that's like the sound of someone who has genuinely like healed, or is like to a larger extent looking at it in a bigger picture way. So that's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're so welcome. So I have a lot to ask you about with regards to this stuff, but I'm going to take us back a little bit. I'm going to roll us back. We're going to jump into some like really quick fire, fun, light questions.
Yeah, let's lighten it up a bit. I'm like sweating.
Yeah,
that got so heavy.
My girl, I got you. We're going to take it a little bit easier now. We're going to chill it out and try to answer quick as you can. What is your favorite Arabic dish?
Oh my God. Dolma.
Nice. Same. Wara anab. Yeah. The best. That's what we call it in Saudi.
I know you guys call it wara anab. Dolma.
Girl,
it's
dolma. Wara anab. Yalanji.
They call it in Egypt.
Some people, that's true.
That's weird.
That's true.
Sorry. I'm like, that's weird.
Sorry
I
to
say
all
that,
the no Egyptians in the room, but yeah. Oh, hell yeah, girl. Whatever it is, it's freaking delicious. What is the silliest thing you've ever done to impress somebody?
This is so embarrassing. I started running.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay, girl.
But it worked out in the time, and I still run now, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
like,
slay.
2 years out of it, and I'm still running.
Do you think you're still trying to impress him, or?
No, but I feel like I got the most ultimate like unintentional revenge because I ended up becoming a runner ambassador. Runner and Strava, use my code.
Let's go.
Mona2. For 2 weeks free on Runner.
Okay, yeah, get that bag, girl. Get that bag.
So yeah, I think it kind of worked out for me. But yeah, I remember I didn't even tell him that I wasn't not running. I just said, oh yeah, I run.
Yeah. I actually am an ambassador. Have you heard?
But that happened after we broke up. But I remember just at the time saying like, yeah, I run. I'm really into running.
Wait, so you dated?
Yeah, we dated for 11 months. So no, it worked.
Okay, it worked.
But I think the trick is don't tell them that like you're getting into it because of them.
Right.
You just like
obviously you just get the hell into it.
Yeah, you just get into it. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, dating apps are blank.
Scam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. More on that later. What is your most toxic trait?
I think I overthink. Yeah, I overthink.
Yeah.
I'm a big overthinker.
Same. I wasn't aware that was a toxic trait.
Yeah.
I just thought, we're intellectuals or whatever. Yeah. When was the last time you cried and why?
I don't cry a lot.
You don't cry a lot?
No.
Wow. So you can't remember?
Yeah, I'm not a big crier.
Wow.
No.
Love that.
I think maybe in like February.
That's a long time ago, girl. I cried like 20 minutes ago.
I wish. I think it's a problem. I think when I was younger, I used to be able to cry all the time. And then I think the frontal lobe closed and I said no more.
Wow.
Yeah. No, my friends think it's strange because they say when you cry or like try to cry, only a single tear would fall. And then I'm like...
The drama, girl.
I know. But I don't like it.
Okay.
And I'm trying to work on it by screaming, but That didn't work as well because then it just made me all giggly and happy. So maybe my default is just not to cry, and I should find other outlets.
Tell us in the comments below what you guys think is wrong with her. No, I'm kidding. I'm so kidding. I wish I was more like you. You're deep in trouble. Who are you calling, mom or dad?
Neither.
Neither. No.
Neither.
No.
No. I'm
You're
calling my little brother.
brothers?
Yeah.
So fair. So
No,
fair.
neither, yeah.
I feel like this is a big Arab parent problem.
Yeah.
It's like, no, actually, I'm going to stay in jail.
Yeah.
I prefer to spend the night here, ladies
Oh,
and gentlemen.
I remember my car broke down on the motorway, and I called an ex-boyfriend before I called my parents.
Oh, I mean, obviously. That one is like...
I was just like, I can't call my
any reason
parents.
to break no contact. I'm on the side of a road.
I did not want to do that, but I was so desperate.
Right.
Like, not to call my parents. And then I called him because I was so close by to his. And I was like, I really don't want to do this right now. But my car broke down. And then he came instantly. And then I called my parents. And then they were just giving me a big telling off. And I was like, this is why I didn't tell you guys.
So fair. Don't make us regret telling you guys.
Literally.
Come on. Coming up next is Shofa's very own Friends and Family segment, where we bring in someone from our guest's most intimate circle, the person who holds the key to their heart. They'll spill a little tea, show us the unseen sides of our guest, and help us unveil them a little further. Munir, thank you so much for coming on Shofa.
Thank you for having me.
We're so grateful. You've been chosen today as Muna's favorite friend and family guest. How do you feel about that?
I feel good. I'd be disappointed if it was anyone else.
Oh, well, she never even thought about anybody else. No one was in the running at all. Muna used to be a lawyer. Muna's now a content creator. She has had many side quests in between. Which of Muna's eras is your favorite?
Errors. I'm a fan of what she's doing now. She's doing her own thing. Yeah, I mess with it.
I love that. Is it because she looks happier?
She does. I feel like she's coming to herself a lot.
Love that. Love a supportive brother. Okay, when you're having a bad day and you go to Muna for advice, you can trust that the pep talk will start with blank.
Probably like don't stress out, or like you're thinking about it too much, because I think she's good at like getting me to take a step back and like thinking about stuff from a distance. You know what I mean? I feel like I'll come to her a bit frantic, and she'll know how to cool it down.
Love that. Funny coming from an overthinker, huh? Right? That was one of our questions. I asked what her most toxic trait is, and she said she's an overthinker.
I suppose you're like good at giving advice on like your own stuff. Do you know what I mean? But you never follow it.
Yeah, we never follow our own advice. But that's what a big sister is for. So, what is something that everyone thinks Muna is amazing at, but she's actually terrible at?
I think people think she's really organized, but yeah.
He was gonna say that.
Yeah, she's a messy one. I feel like all great people are, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I myself happen to be a messy girl.
Yeah. No, everyone always says like, oh, Muna, you give a clean girl static. And I'm like, ooh. If only they knew.
Me?
No, yeah, I'm like, who, me? Clean girl? Yeah, sure.
No, you do. You have a very like put together vibe about you.
And then you walk into my room.
Okay, got it. Yeah, you're really giving us the inside scoop here, Munir. What is the biggest lesson Muna has taught you?
Yeah, maybe just don't give up. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, maybe like even if stuff feels hard or like it's a bit tough, yeah, just keep going, and then stuff will pull through.
And what is something that you think Muna needs to hear?
You're doing great.
Thank you.
That's so sweet. So Muna talks about a fight that she had with one of her brothers to get the biggest room in the house. Was that brother you?
No, it wasn't me. No.
No? So that's
eldest one.
It's your eldest one. Okay, so this is a little juicy, but whose side were you on in that fight?
I don't pick sides. I'm not. Yeah.
You're staying out of this one.
He's Switzerland.
I plead the fifth on that one. I'm sorry.
Okay, I see how it is. I'm not getting any juice out of you, Munir. He's not giving me the tea.
No, not happening today. No.
I like it. You picked a loyal one. Cute. And if you and Muna were stuck on a desert island, what do you think you guys would do together?
I think initially we would both just like scream. And then, do you know what? I feel like I'd pull it together a bit more than she would.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. But I think within like a day or so we'd sort of split up some tasks, figure it out. Do you know what I mean? I'd build a shelter, find some sticks.
Nice.
She's probably like she's more of a thinker than I am. I think she's a bit more strategic. I'm a bit more of like, right, I'm here, let me do something, and it'll probably like end up not being the greatest thing.
And she'll boss you around. Love that. And if Muna were a beverage, which beverage would she be?
What's she always drinking? I don't know, probably like some ice matcha latte bullshit or some shit. I don't know. I don't drink that stuff, but yeah, I know her and her friends love it.
Yeah.
Love a matcha, coconut milk matcha.
Yes, that's so the best. Good. I always say that. So do you think that you are the favorite brother?
Yeah, I suppose I'm not a fan of the word favorite, but like, yeah, I do spend more. I am probably closer to her. Yeah.
Amazing. And what is your favorite Muna story?
I feel like there's been so many. Yeah, one time I was annoying her and she threw a deodorant can at my face and broke my tooth.
Broke your tooth.
I'm glad you said that one and not the other story.
No, you gotta tell us the other story now.
Let's just say she was always a lot stronger than me growing up.
You know the day when your younger brother stands up and he's like no longer scared of you? That was like a switch in the power dynamic. I was like, oh no, you can beat me up now. And I was just like, whoa.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You know when they like dodge your... Do you have brothers?
I have a brother and a sister.
Oh, you know when you're like brother, you used to like throw something at him and then they dodge it and you're like, whoa.
You can dodge now?
You can dodge now? And I think that's when like we stopped fighting like kids. Because I was like, it's not a level playing field.
Yeah, you're like, no, this is just domestic violence now. No, so true. I'm the youngest actually of my siblings. So my sister would walk around and be like, what if I just like punched you right now?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
It's got to happen. It's character building. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what is your favorite Munir story?
Oh, don't say anything mad. There's so many stupid ones. I'm trying to... There's one that he knows that is my favorite one, but I'm not going to say that one. When we were kids, we used to have a trampoline in our garden, and we used to... convince Munir to jump off it. So that was like, and he would just be like, yeah, okay, and he would just like run up and jump onto the floor. So that's like a collection of like memories of him doing that.
Did you break any bones?
No, but I've got partial brain damage for sure.
Yeah.
Not diagnosed, but
boy, any chance he gets, he wouldn't fall like a normal child. He would fall head first. So he's had so many head injuries.
Oh no!
I've had many. She's been around for many of them. Yeah. Yeah.
I just never met a child who goes head first. I'm like, where are your survival instincts? Like that's supposed to be the part you protect, but he would just literally dive forward. I'm like, okay.
I love that. Yeah. That's good tea. That's good tea. So you were also a little bit bullied, huh?
Yeah, no, by her and my older brother. But I think that's natural. Do you know what I mean? I think it makes you a stronger person. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't always have to dive head first into something, but like totally makes you stronger.
Yeah.
Like built my character.
I just go all in. I can't help it.
Well, that is all from me, Munir. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was good fun.
Thank you so much for the tea. At what point did you realize staying in law was no longer an option for you?
I think I always knew. I actually had this conversation with my friend recently who we went to law school together with, and she's doing amazing things. She loves it. She's having the time of her life. She's doing a secondment in Berlin. So happy for her. But I went to visit her while she was doing a secondment in Brussels. And we were talking about career switch and how leaving law, like she was asking me, like, how do you feel about it? because it hasn't been like a smooth sailing career trajectory. And I was really struggling to find my footing in the kind of sector of law I wanted to work in, or even finding a workplace environment that felt not comfortable, because I don't really believe that any job at our age should be comfortable because it limits your growth, but something that felt rewarding. I didn't really find that in any role that I had worked in. And I was talking to my friend about it, and she was like, I'm going to be honest, Mona, when we were studying at university, I didn't feel that you were convinced about it. And she knew then. I think at the time I was 23, so I did my undergrad and then I went and did the GDL, which is a law conversion in the UK. And I remember at the time, the type of person I was very much go with the flow and just see what happens. But also I was very like academic and just wanting to make sure that I always had like a backup or something. Like I never wanted to just half-ass it. I remember I tried really hard. I kind of crashed out a bit because I felt like I was being punished, not rewarded for all my efforts. I wasn't having a good time at work. I was being bullied at work, if I'm being honest.
Wow.
They were calling me Office Barbie. Yeah. When they first said that to me, I thought it was a compliment.
Yeah, you're like, I'm gorgeous.
I was like, oh my God,
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah,
but then it turned out they were saying it in the sense that I'm an airhead. I know.
They're calling you the personality hire.
I wish. They were just calling me the pretty hire, which I thought was really mean. I was like, at least personality hire, like want to be, people want to involve you, but I was just being left out. So that was one of the reasons I left. And then on top of it, it just made me realize how corrupt everything is. Obviously, I can't speak too much about what I was working on, but it gave me so much insight into a side of the world that I was kind of aware of, but didn't want to believe was actually the reality. So yeah, I think the optimistic, hopeful Mona that started studying politics at 18 got a big reality check by the time she turned 26. And I just realized that if I wanted to have a rewarding career, if I wanted to feel like I was making a positive change, I was not going to be able to do it in these like systems that are so limited by like bureaucracy and policies that aren't ever going to really change or bring effect anything of that sorts really. So yeah, it was just a big wake up call for me, and in terms of how I kind of see myself and how I see my future.
How did it feel? Because you're drawing the picture for me. It's really clear, right? You are super high achieving during your studies, and you're super high achieving in reaching the state of working and all of that. And so you're achieving these things that should be celebrated. So that's like what it looks like from the outside. And then like there's the huge disconnect of how you feel from the inside, which is like literally I don't even feel like celebrating this. How did that feel like internally?
I don't know. I think I just felt switched off. I felt very disconnected from myself. I think COVID had a massive impact in that as well. Like, I remember during the first lockdown, I just went into a downward spiral where I was becoming very disconnected from who I was. And the best version of you is when you're probably like 17, when you haven't been like traumatized by the world yet.
Broken by life.
Yeah, broken by life. And I remember thinking about who I was before I applied to university and thinking about who I wanted to be. And obviously COVID just wrecked that. It wrecked all like my ideas and my dreams and my hopes. And I remember just being so, I would say almost shell-shocked by it, to the point where I was like, okay, everything that I want is not worthy of having. Therefore, I should just accept what's coming my way. And I remember at the time I was in a really toxic relationship. It was basically, I was in a series of events of things that I thought I should be doing. So I was in a really toxic relationship with someone who I thought I should be with, in the sense that they were really academic, they had a good job, they come from...
Good on paper.
Amazing on paper. Not the reality in life. But in my brain, I was so young and conditioned to believe that this is what I'm supposed to have. And it's kind of silly to say this, because when I have this conversation with my parents about it, they said, well, Mona, no one pressured you to be with him. And I was like, that's true.
No, it's true. But at the same, I witnessed this a lot with like people my age from where I'm from, and Arabs in general, my peers. everybody at some point gets told that. But like, where do you think it comes from?
Exactly.
Like, even if we're not being told in the moment, stay with this toxic man, which like hopefully most like great parents won't. But like the society and the wider picture, like
it's subliminal messaging. Like it's wired. Like we're told as young women that when we are selecting a partner for ourselves, that they have to be from a certain like family, or they have to have a degree from a good university, and they have to have the good job to provide for you. But there was no emphasis on they have to be kind to you, they have to make efforts to understand you, they have to learn how to communicate with you. But when you're 19...
as if that'll just get figured out later at some point.
And when you're 19, it's so easy to fall into the, oh, but they're impressive on paper. I can show off like, oh yeah, this is what my boyfriend does or whatnot. And I think it was like me realizing that I was doing everything wrong and then crashing out. And it was kind of crazy because I remember I was crashing out to my parents about it. And they were like, Mona, we never said that you had to do that. And the same with like the law. Like my dad was like, I never told you had to do it. Because my dad was like, I remember asking you, do you want to do the law conversion? And I think I just felt pressured by the lack of options at the time. And I think this is something that a lot of kids from the diaspora might feel as well, where they do, although it might not be direct in some people's cases. I know in many families it is direct. You're either a doctor, lawyer, or an engineer. In some families, that's very clear. In my family, it wasn't like pressured. It wasn't a direct message, but it was somewhat implied that I had to have a career that was stable. And my dad was an engineer. My mum was a housewife and mother, so that in itself is a career.
Of course.
I remember the reason that I went down the route I went down wasn't because of the pressure that I was getting from my parents to just go through the set ones. It was because I had a lack of knowledge that there were other roles and other careers. And it wasn't until my second year of university that I even heard of the jobs in marketing. I didn't know that was a thing. I genuinely thought the world ran on engineers, doctors, and lawyers. That was
and
it.
Then,
and
like,
a pharmacist
randoms.
and teachers.
Yeah,
that was it. I genuinely thought that's how the world ran, and it wasn't my parents' fault that I went down law. It was just they themselves didn't really know that there were these other career options as well, because my dad came from a background where it was doctor, lawyer, or engineer. And he told me a funny story about how he actually disappointed his parents by becoming an engineer and not a doctor. And I just was like, this is so funny. So he always said that I never wanted you to just go down the conventional route, but at the same time, he didn't offer any other alternatives. So as a child who would go to their parents for career advice, it was like one of those kind of weird ones where it's like, yes, you didn't tell me to become this, but I didn't know what else there was. So it was like navigating that as an adult and realizing like it was partly my fault as well that I didn't go out and find other alternatives for myself, but also it is what it is. I found it in the end.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's an important message what you're saying right now, because we should have that agency and like putting the accountability on ourselves to like go out there and figure out what we want, but also equally, like especially with like really intelligent children, the messaging is so important, because even if that's a problem with intelligent children as well, if they understand subliminally what's going to make you happy as a parent and what's going to make you proud, then they're so much more likely, if there's no other options or if there's no further exploration, to like go towards the thing that they know is going to make them proud. Like it's sometimes ignorance is bliss, and that's
honestly,
why they say that. Okay, well, when you and I spoke very briefly for the first time, you had mentioned that you were taking a break from Instagram.
Yeah, I was.
In regards to that, actually, I was wondering how you look after your mental health when your job is so dependent on being online.
I think it was just really affecting my perception of myself. I was getting a lot of... It was more so of the content that I was consuming as well as the content I was creating. I was starting to feel a bit disconnected from what I was doing, because I was falling down the trap of produce, like just get it out.
Right.
There's always these weird strategies that you see all over. I don't know if anyone else's algorithm has been hijacked by how to become a content creator, how to grow successfully, how to grow your account to like 10,000 followers, And I got consumed by it. And especially the approach of post every day, post this many times a day, do this. And it got to the point where my friends were like, get off your phone, like calm down. And I was just getting so obsessive with trying to maintain like high engagement, or it kind of got worse because I started posting on Instagram in November, and then I hit 10,000 followers in December. So I got a bit obsessive with the fact of how quickly it started. But then since then, doing what I did to get 10,000 isn't working the same way that it did. So like the growth has been a lot slower. But I was still producing at the same rate. But then the problem with that is what's the fun saying about quality over quantity? And then I just realized I need a moment.
Yeah,
I need to stop doing this.
Beat. Yeah,
and I took a break, and in that break I was still producing content, but I was actually working on it and trying to be more intentional and meaningful. And that's when I came up with my Disappointment Daughter series,
which I love, by the way.
More episodes coming.
Yes, please.
So I think sometimes you just need to take a break and just have a reality check and realize that what works for some people might not necessarily work for you, but also might not be the best representation of the work you want to put out. It's really easy to just put out meaningless content.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, I still do it because I find it fun. I love doing a little lip sync and whacking a quote on.
Yeah.
But it's also important that I create stuff that is reflective of who I am and has integrity, and also is rooted in the reason why I started social media, which was to foster community, was to give a voice back to a lot of women and girls who don't necessarily have the same like access to one. And I do get a lot of messages from young girls saying, how do you like get away with this? How did you navigate that? And it's just been a really nice way to see that, you know what, my experiences do hold value to other people, not just to myself.
Right.
I would always say take a break, be more intentional, be surrounded by people who actually can love you and can see that you need a check-in, you need like a reality check. And also just being honest with yourself with why you're doing something is really important, because it's so easy. Like I saw it happening with myself, that I was falling into the external validation trap, where if something wasn't performing well, that it meant it wasn't good. And I always tease with my friends, like, oh, the content I put so much effort into does so badly, but me just dancing around and saying that I'm Iraqi gets 1 million views. Like, what the hell? But then I saw another creator say that when she was starting out content, she said, continue with the effort and the results will follow. So it's just pushing through and just knowing that eventually it will catch on.
This is a direct quote from you. My parents didn't leave their home countries for me to suffer. I think this represents the experience of so many diaspora kids whose parents left their respective countries for a better life, whatever that might mean. Do you think children owe their parents the life that their parents dreamed up for them?
No.
No.
Controversially, I don't think you owe your parents anything. I think you owe your parents love, respect when it's given to you. It's a very hot topic because I know a lot of people live with this idea that they have to live for their parents, live up to their dreams that they didn't get to live out. I also want to clarify that I'm speaking from a position of privilege where I don't really have the responsibility that other children might have coming from like the diaspora. The diaspora is such a wide community. For instance, I don't have to think about paying for bills and I don't have to think about the financial responsibilities that other children of immigrants might have to have on their shoulders. But something that I've learned from my own personal experience, which is the only experience I can speak on, is that doing anything for someone else, regardless of your parents, a partner, a friend, whoever it may be, will always lead to resentment if it's not what you actually want to do. And unlearning resentment and taking accountability is, well, it's way harder to undo that than to just do what you want to begin with. So again, from speaking my personal experience, I was saying earlier that it was never direct expectations. It was more the unspoken expectations that I had to kind of let go of. It was a weird thing when you do let go of that and you do start saying, okay, no, I'm going to start living for myself. Those things that you once felt were unspoken actually become spoken. And I did have that weird situation with my parents where when I did start living exactly for like who I am and what I feel is me and what feels authentic to myself and the person I also want to become, it confused my parents a lot because they had only been exposed to a certain version of myself. I feel like Arab girls in general, we have a really good like skill at living this kind of Hannah Montana dual life where we show our parents one thing and then live another. And it got to the point where I had grown so frustrated with, I was almost like tripping in my own lies at one point, and I just felt I'm too old for this.
Yeah.
I also believe that you don't tell your parents everything. I am a big believer of that.
100%.
I think there are some things that your parents just don't need to know, not
They
because
don't
of
need to know.
anything like wrong. It's just parents naturally will worry.
Yeah.
And I feel that giving them too much information will just lead to more worry, especially in our day and age where we have such a different life to them. Like we live so differently to how our parents live. There are things that they're not going to understand. And from their lack of understanding is just going to lead to worry and then can lead to explosive arguments and misunderstandings and miscommunication. So as much as I'm an advocate for living authentically and showing up as your true self, there's also things you just don't need to tell your parents, and that's completely okay. But there are bigger things like being able to dress the way you want to dress, being able to come home when you want to come home, like even like going like as a older, like I'm 27, like if I want to go on a date, I'm gonna go on a date. Like this idea that we shouldn't, like that we should be so removed from being around men as well, that's something that I had to like have a conversation with my parents and be like, I have guy friends, I hang out with men. That should be something that's accepted and normalized and not seen as something inappropriate. Because I always say that people's like perception of something comes from their own internalized projections of what they think would happen if they were in those situations. It's okay to not overshare. I think when we say don't overshare, we also, that includes our parents.
Absolutely. What they don't know won't hurt them.
Yeah.
But also I think this is so funny because I think the exact same thing, and I'm like, okay, fair, like, but also I'm like, what if I'm a parent? Because I feel like I want to know everything, and I feel like I'm gonna feel entitled to know everything. But
yeah, I think it's just a like a thing of control that we kind of just have to unlearn.
So true.
Like you don't need to know everything about anyone, and I think it's just letting go of that. I think it stems from the need to control a situation or to control an outcome, because something that I've had to really like reflect on and think about was where a lot of the tensions between me and my parents was coming from. And it was just coming from a lack of understanding and a lack of trust, which was really like important, because I think for a lot of us, until we get married, our parents will continue seeing us as children.
Yeah.
And I've been quite vocal with my parents that like I don't have any interest in getting married or having kids anytime soon. So you need to start seeing me as an adult, like today. I've been adulting. Like I've been here. I've been showing up for myself as an adult, and it's about time you see that. And yeah, I have been quite lucky that my parents have been receptive to that. It hasn't been easy. I think with my content and the kind of stories that I share about my life, I am very selective of what I share, because I am conscious that not everyone has the same privilege that I have of having parents that aren't going to necessarily be like really, like some girls message me and they send me really like sad stories where saying like, I can't even do this and I'm scared of my parents. And I think it's really important for me to preface that I don't have that fear of my parents. I never have.
Yeah.
And the tensions in my relationship with my family comes from just struggling to see eye to eye rather than a fear of loss of life, which many girls do have that fear. And it's really important that with my content and with the messages that I put out, that I am mindful that not everyone can just go up to their parents and be like, you know what, I'm going to go out in this outfit today and you just got to deal with it.
Or I'm going to book the trip to Bali.
Because whilst I was able to do that, it's not advice that is necessarily applicable to everyone. But what I do with my messaging is not so much copy what I do, just take inspiration, I guess, to kind of find what you can implement. So for me, my pushing the boundary was booking the flight to Bali. For someone else, it could literally just be, can I have an extension on my curfew? It starts small, and I think my little brother didn't mention it, but we always joke about how I got to run so that he could walk.
Yeah.
And it starts slowly, and it didn't just all happen and accumulate in my later 20s. I've been pushing boundaries since I was a kid even. And especially growing up with brothers, I was seeing how they were able to do things that I couldn't do. And it just was frustrating for me as a child to see, like, why does my younger brother have more freedoms than I do? Like, I'm 3 years older than him. How come he can stay out later and I can't? Like, I'm 18, he's 15. That doesn't make sense. So it was kind of having those, like, confronting arguments with my parents.
And how did they respond to those questions?
They would always respond with, but you're a girl. And I'd be like, well, anything else? Because I can give you the stats on how many boys get stabbed when they walk out the house. Like, and they're not comparable to the latter. Like, I understand that parents have this fear of things happening to girls because they're girls, but you can't live life in fear. And I always tell my parents that I could get kidnapped in broad daylight.
Absolutely.
And I could be completely fine walking home at 3 a.m. Like, I always say, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And
I mean, of course, we have to be careful.
you have to be careful. Like,
yeah.
you know, be mindful, be careful. But at the same time, it kind of ties into that whole, like, victim blaming mindset that you have to put in the measures. You have to be cautious. You have to go out of your way. You have to limit yourself and your experiences just in case. But if something's bad's going to happen to you, it's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And I learned that the hard way. I thought if I was cautious with my, like, career, for example, I thought if I did everything right, get the good grades, get the good job, that nothing bad was I was untouchable, nothing bad was going to happen because I was so cautious and I listened to my parents. But listening to your parents doesn't always end up with the best outcome for you.
Absolutely.
And although it might be a desirable outcome, like, for some people, they probably look at my previous life and think, oh, she had it so good. She got the job. She got the good grades. Like, she must be nothing to complain about. But there was plenty of things to complain about. And there were things that were misaligned with me. And it wasn't easy and it wasn't glamorous. And it was hard. And the product of it was a lot of resentment. And I had to realize that I was the only person that put myself in that position to begin with, because I was so desperate to please. And I was so ready to just give everyone else a version of myself that I didn't even like.
You know, something I think about a lot, it's so interesting that you say this in this way, and I can tell that you've gone to therapy, and I love it so much. But it's the responsibility of the person. I think we always talk about, like, in Arab society, like, how much, like, parents or society are, like, pushing these ideas on kids and whatever. But there is a certain point that I feel like people cling on to the safety of, if something goes wrong, it's not on me. It's on my parents, it's on society, it's on the people who told me to do this. So it becomes like this, like, thing where you actually are so much further from ever taking agency and responsibility of, like, where you can go next, because you're kind of like, no, none of this was my choice anyway.
And I recognized that in myself when I, like, crashed out on my parents, and I'm like, this was all your fault. And then my dad was like,
he said, girl,
like, hello, like, you could have done something differently if you wanted it bad enough. And I think that was the thing. I didn't want it bad enough. And I didn't know what I wanted as well. And it was so much easier to just shift the blame on my parents than to actually take accountability for the fact that I was choosing a life based on the fact that I was too lazy to seek out my own. And it is, again, I keep privilege checking myself by saying, like, oh yeah, it's like a privilege that I even got to get to this realization. But it was, like, at the time I was thinking, oh, I'm doing everything right. Why is life not loving me back, kind of thing. And then I realized it's just because I wasn't loving the life. So it was the energy that I was putting out was matching me, basically.
You know, I actually don't agree. I don't think it's a privileged thing to say, because I think everybody lives life and everybody has to make choices. And of course, like, all of the circumstances around us and the privileges we have affect our ability to make those choices with the comfort. And I say that to disclaim, like, the privileges that come with that. But I think that it's not, in the end, like, we have to make a choice. And of course, like, for the women that you talked about that are really confined and not able to make those choices, of course, it doesn't apply in that circumstance specifically, but you can still make a choice in your head, can't you? You can, like, anyways, I don't want to speak too much on that, because I know the difference in that. But I think I like what you said about taking that agency and putting it on us, let's get up and see what we can do.
Yeah. And I think there's so much discourse on the whole subject of like children of diaspora and their immigrant parents. And I always see this like resentment being built up towards people's parents, and a narrative that I actually don't like is that it's their first time living. I don't really agree with that because it's my first time living as well.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this
actually.
together.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in discrediting one person's like experiences and trauma because of another. So when I see stuff like that, I'm just like, yeah, girl, no, like live for yourself. Because even if it's their first time living, why would you repeat the patterns that they have repeated with themselves? Like, why can't you just learn a new way of living? Why can't you seek out new ideas? And why don't you just look inwards as well and actually figure out what you want? Because I think that was the hardest thing for me, was actually realizing like, what is it I want? Like, who am I? And it was just such a weird time in my life where I was just really trying to let go of everything that I thought was meant for me. And I didn't realize how deep it went, from like the friends that I was choosing, from the people that I was dating. Like every guy that I've only had 2 relationships, and in those 2 relationships I was so mindful of, are my parents going to like them? Are my parents going to want to hang out with them? And then I was like, I don't even hang out with my parents that much. Like, why do I care so much? And I was just so caught up in like what I thought my parents wanted. And this is another thing that because we're so confined to certain subjects that we can speak with our parents. I know I said don't speak to your parents about everything, but it's really important to sit down and have conversations with your parents and see them as other human beings who have made other mistakes. And especially as adults, I have learned so much from just having normal conversations with my dad and my mum about who they were before me. And it's so important that we humanize our parents and we recognize they are capable of making mistakes, and that what they want for us might not necessarily be the best thing. And that's okay to admit as well. But I don't believe in falling down this whole path of excusing their behavior or trying to blame everything that's going wrong on your life on them. Like, I think there's a middle ground where, especially as adults, we need to take accountability, but we also need to recognize where we come from and who we come from, because we can learn so much from them, but also not be exactly like them.
Totally, absolutely.
Yeah.
And also not totally, I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing, this is their first time at life, just in the aspect of the forgiveness part of like just not living in that resentment. You know, as you said, it takes such a long time, but I think that like maybe that narrative helps to get there a little bit faster, to think, okay, cool, like they didn't know what they were doing. But I also agree with you. There has to be a point where you're not like feeding that to yourself consistently for how you're being treated now, and you continue to be treated. Like there has to be a point where you're like, okay, like this is not what's not working for me. And I think this part feels like a position of privilege because some people don't have that with their parents. But where you can sit down and have a conversation with your parents about what's not working and what could be better and what you could learn from each other better, I think it's a beautiful thing, and people should take advantage of that if they can. On that matter, though, why is authenticity so often mistaken as rebellion in the Arab world?
I guess it's because they want us all to be the same. I was actually listening to a podcast on the way here. I was only halfway through it. It was basically talking about being too much and why people who are perceived as being too much kind of like cast out of their communities or cast out of spaces. And I feel like a lot of people who have been told they're authentic or are fighting for a space in their own authenticity are told that they're too much. And it's basically because a lot of us grow up in spaces that are so obsessed with confining. And again, it goes back to that whole fear element that our parents have and why they worry and why they try and control things. And I think it links back to that and this idea that sameness is comfortability and sameness is relatable and sameness is safe. And when someone is going against that and being something and questioning and being something that feels more true to themselves, it seems like a threat to that sameness. And it's human nature to be against those who threaten safety.
Challenge and
It's like, we just want to be safe. We just want to be homogenized. We just want to be same. And people who have those tendencies or those ideal ways of thinking see people who are kind of challenging that. It makes them then question why they're doing something. And people don't want to ask those questions themselves, because then the worst thing that can happen to you as an adult is being told you're doing it wrong.
Oh my God.
Because nobody wants to have that crash out. And I think it's okay to have those crash outs, because from those crash outs you discover new versions of yourself. And that's why I'm really against the idea of being comfortable in your 20s. I think your 20s is about exploration. I think your 20s are about making mistakes. I think your 20s are supposed to be the worst years of your life. People need to just let go a bit, let go of control. I'm saying this to myself. Let go of control.
And all of us
I'm like,
here.
let go of control, let go of this, stop being mean to yourself, like stop limiting your beliefs. I think our brains are so malleable right now. And it's the perfect opportunity to just invite change and invite new opportunities and invite new experiences into your life, because otherwise you're just going to be stuck in the same position, and then you'll be 40 thinking, oh, what if?
Yeah.
Like, you know that Chapel Roan song, when you wake up in bed. Yeah, that's like, I think about that and I'm like, oh my God, what if that's me? Like, just 40 years down the line in a life that I didn't bother exploring because I was so just ready to accept what everyone else was doing or telling me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. You reminded me, I had a friend of mine when I was younger. I think we were like 13 or something. And her mom is like, she's like a perfect mom in so many ways. Like she was like really well placed in that way. And I remember one year she just randomly dyed her hair blue. And like, I thought that was the coolest thing. It's so funny because it was so unexpected from this person. And I don't know anything about like what happened behind the scenes or if it was like even a thing, but like crash out, do weird things. Like there's no age where that's like not acceptable. Yeah. And that's like, so that is a whole other topic on its own of like, especially for women, how like at a certain age, you're not allowed to like do this and do that. And I'm like, I just love, like, especially moms, because a lot of them didn't get to do a lot of that stuff when they were younger. I love seeing like a mom do the most outrageous, like obviously if she's not hurting people, whatever. Sometimes you have to hurt people though too. But yeah, seriously, go out there and crash out.
Crash out, yeah. I'm the biggest advocate for a crash out. Dye your hair, get that tattoo.
Hell yeah.
Like, do whatever you want, because
I'm gonna get in trouble for that one,
yeah,
but worth it.
But honestly, who cares?
Yeah.
What's the saying? Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is the way for every like child. Like, just
I'm like, don't even ask for forgiveness. If you hurt someone,
if you hurt someone, but like,
you talk about how everybody wants to have a village, but nobody wants to be a villager. What do you think it looks like to be a good villager?
I think being inconvenienced. I think we've lost the art of being inconvenienced. We're always in this mindset that life is about protecting our peace and not going out of our way and setting boundaries, and this over therapy talk that has been taken so out of context.
Oh my God.
And it's ruining communities, it's ruining friendships, and it's just had such a negative impact on how we show up for each other. And not to get all like socialist on you, but it always is capitalism is always to blame. This whole like hyper individualism, this you don't need anyone. Even with the whole wellness movement that we've seen, it's been so like fixated on the individual and how to like, you know, like looks maxing and health maxing and all these things.
Oh my God, it's the creepiest thing I've ever seen, this looks maxing.
Yeah, it's just centering the self and centering and like isolating yourself at the same time. And nothing pisses me off more than the whole you don't owe anyone anything, that narrative. And I'm like, oh no, girl, we owe each other everything. Like without each other, we have nothing.
Absolutely.
And we're seeing that effect happen. Like humans crave community. We crave each other. We want to be near each other. So for me, like a good villager is someone who's having a shit day, but is still going to show up. It's not about being ready to show up as a good friend. Like you just have to be one, if that makes sense. So an example would be like right now in my life, I'm going through like as a freelancer, it's very hit and miss. It's very up and down. Some months are good, some months aren't as good, like if we're talking about like finances. And it weighs on me a lot and it gives me a lot of anxiety. But my friend is going through something else, and there are days where I just want to stay home and just wallow and think, oh, woo me, like this is so hard, like I have to seek out my own opportunities, like no one else gets me, da, da, da. And my friend was going through something really serious, and she called me on one of those days where I just wanted to stay home. But then I realized, I was like, we are probably going to make each other feel so much better if we just actually see each other. And we did, and we went up and we literally said to each other that sometimes we get so into our heads that we make our problems so much bigger. And I always say, an issue shared is an issue halved, or something like that. I think that's the saying.
I haven't heard it, but it's like, I like that.
Yeah, if you like, because when you're holding on to yourself and you pass it on, you guys can like talk about it, you can relate. And I always say that healing comes from realizing you're not alone, and how damaging being isolated is, because when you isolate, your brain just keeps telling you like, yeah, you're alone, no one else understands you, and it just pushes you further and down a downward spiral. So yeah, I think showing up for your friends is a lost art. Being
absolutely
a villager is a lost art. Oh, and also something that I really hate is this tallying thing that some people do, like, I did this for you, where are you now? I hate that.
No, absolutely. That's like, if that's the intention that you're doing something with, then why are you doing it?
I have never regretted the kindness I've given to someone. If we're not friends anymore and I've done something kind for you, just know that I don't hold that against you. I did that because I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have an issue with building genuine community and being genuine villagers, is because they're doing things for the wrong reason. They're acting out kindness, but not believing it or embodying it, if that makes sense. Like they're just performing the act rather than actually meaning it. And when you do that, it just, again, goes back to this whole resentment. And I genuinely think everyone's problem right now is that they're not doing what they want.
Absolutely.
Like, if you want to be kind to someone, you're going to be kind to them. But if you find yourself not wanting to be kind, then
ask yourself why.
Like, maybe you don't want to be friends with them.
But that's really interesting, though, because like you've just said that, but at the same time, we're like, sometimes you got to do what you don't want to do. Sometimes you got to get out of bed. Like, where's the balance? How do we like know that, okay, this is me expressing myself and saying like, today, like I'm having a day. And then like the days when you're like, no, I need to put my stuff aside and like, this is what needs to be prioritized.
I actually saw a TikTok about a girl like breaking it down, where she was like, this is a valid reason. This is not a valid reason. This is a valid this is not. And it was basically using examples of, you made plans with your friend to meet today. And it was like this whole idea of like people cancelling last minute. I'm very guilty of this.
Okay. I
cancel a lot last minute, and it's always because I get into my head. I always start overthinking, and then I backtrack immediately. I'm like, no, I'm coming. I'll see you soon. So I get it. I get there are days where you just don't want to be outside, but it's sometimes important to rationalize what is the reason that's making you not want to go out. Is it because you genuinely are exhausted and tired, or is it because you think you look fat in your outfit and you want to cancel? Like, these are valid reasons, but also they're reasons that are hindering not only your relationships with others, but your relationship with yourself. And I do think it's okay to set those kind of boundaries with your friends. We're saying, you know what, I'm having a really shit day, I don't want to come out. But it gets to a point where, how often are you doing that? If it's a one-off, fair enough. You're having a shit day. We all have
those days, yeah.
But if it's like every time your friend is trying to meet you, that's not okay. But then I also have this on the flip side where, like, if you find yourself constantly cancelling plans with someone, do you even want to be friends with them?
Exactly. I was just going to say
because we all make time for the people we actually want to see.
Absolutely. This is such an interesting thing. I actually had a chat with someone about this, like, recently. If you find yourself unable to find that time for this person, what is that reason? Like, it's because that time is draining, it's because that time doesn't feel fulfilling to you, whatever reason it is. I think it goes back to what you just said about how, like, the main issue is that people are not doing what they want to do. Like, people are not being honest about what they want to do, where they want to be, how they want to wear something, like, and then also, like, it's really hard to know what you want to do. That's another issue, right? Like, it's hard to know what you want to do if you've not been doing what you want to do for so long. So you kind of like come out of that and you're kind of like, wait, who am I? Like, what do I like? Who are my friends? So
I think it's also outgrowing people and admitting that you've outgrown them.
Yeah,
that's been a really hard lesson for me.
Really?
Yeah, I've learned accepting that I've outgrown people and not wanting to cling on to the friendships and all that stuff. So you know when you want to be friends with someone.
Absolutely.
And it's just like listening to that, because the more you ignore it, the bigger the problem gets.
But how do you know, back to the villager question, maybe annoyingly challenging, how do you know the difference between outgrowing somebody and between that, like, maybe when is it time to let go, I think is the better question.
I'm actually the worst person to ask this, because I am... My friends call me the queen of avoidance. I walk away too easily sometimes. Okay. So I don't think I'm the best person in answering, like, when's the right time to leave, because I leave instantly. Okay. You're like, I'm already out of the door. I've already exited 2 minutes ago. Literally, I'm always like the first one to leave. And I don't know, I think it's just like not wanting to have difficult conversations, I guess, because I think it's easier to avoid something than upsetting someone with why you want to stop being friends with someone. Because it is hard. Like, I've had people tell me to my face that they don't see an alignment in the friendship, and like I took it on the chin. Yeah. But not everyone is going to be able to handle it, or at least I might be projecting and thinking they can't handle it based off who they are and how I know them. And also your reasons might not always be valid to them. So it's that fear of retaliation that I have. Right. Where someone's going to be like, but why? But why? And I'm just going to be like, I don't know, but this is how I feel. And it's really sticky sometimes having to navigate that, because we can be so solid in our reasons for ending something. And the confusion, like, I think for me, it's whenever I've had a difficult ending with a friend, there's still a lot of love. Even with a lot of love, I can take a step back and see, like, there's a lot of value misalignment, and we're very different. And I've always had this issue where I've seen resentment start building, and I read it, I notice it, and it hurts. And in a way, me withdrawing before they get a chance to even acknowledge whatever, or even like confront me about the issue, I just find it easier to walk away than having, and it's kind of just like lessening their load. And I'm like, oh, look, we don't even need the conversation because I'm gone. Right. Yeah, so it's kind of like a mix between protecting them and protecting myself, because nobody wants to have a sit down and being told like, oh yeah, I pulled away from you because this. So have you ever felt reluctant to put something out there because of al-ayn, the evil eye? Yes, all the time. Really? I've actually been having this little issue at the moment where I keep burning myself on like the air fryer. Oh my goodness. Like, it's literally covered all over my hand. And when I showed my friend, she was like, maybe it's the evil eye. Maybe you're getting evil eye. And you know, you grow up with these kind of superstitions. And you're like, no, there's no way. Like, it's not real. But I guess it is. I guess there's a part of it that maybe there is that thing that a lot of people giving you the evil eye, and you are becoming cautious of what you're posting, or not sharing too much of your life, or not showing too much happiness. But then I sometimes think, oh, the evil only happens if you give it the power to. And that if you believe in it so much, that's when it starts affecting you. Right. So me and my friends were just joking, and I was just like trying to reclaim my power. And I'm like, no, it's just because I'm clumsy. Like, it's not because of evil eye. It's just because like I don't know how to wait for the air fryer to cool down before I shove my hand into it. So, yeah, I'm just a silly little girl. That's why. But no, like I do sometimes. I'm cautious about what I post, because I do post my friends a lot, especially my like best friend. And I feel like on the subjects that we were speaking about before, about friendship and not many people knowing how to like cultivate or nurture good friendships, and then seeing mine that I'm pushing out and posting a lot about, I do get a bit scared. I'm like, what if people give us evil eye? Like, what if we start arguing all of a sudden? What if there's disagreement? So it does play on my mind, and it does make me hesitate before I post someone or something, or share positive news. And I always have this thing where I don't share something until I know it's certain. Not so much to avoid evil eye, but just to avoid that there's like, it's something about like your brain, once you've said that you've done something or you're going to do something, you kind of have that reward system when your brain tells you, oh, you've already achieved it, therefore you don't need to put effort, and then you self-sabotage because you've already like convinced yourself, oh, it's done, and you've enjoyed the dopamine spike from it, and then it ends up not planning through or not working out. And so I kind of do that. Like I'm just cautious about sharing news that's not solidified, rather than being so fixated on iron and all that, because sometimes you want to you don't want to give in to superstitions, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a great point. My cousin and I actually were talking about this the other day, because it's true that like that content resonates with people really well. Like people love to see, you know, relationships that are genuine and that you can tell are genuine. So yeah, I guess I was worried. Like, how do you respond to yourself when you're like, get that reluctance, you're like about to post or whatever? Are you just like, no, go ahead? Like,
I trust the gut instinct. I'm like, I post so easily, like I don't think about it. I just, well, it's gone, it's out. But then if I do catch myself feeling a way, then I'm like, okay, I'm listening to that. And there's a reason that I'm feeling this way, because I don't feel that way about my other content. So I just kind of listen to my intuition and just go from there.
I like that. Trust your gut.
Yeah.
You shy away from advice from people who you said you wouldn't trade lives with. I love this. I say this all the time. Was there a particular moment that made you realize that?
Yeah, I would say when I quit my job, I was taking advice from people who would love the life I was living, and I was really questioning it, and I didn't really know what I wanted. And I feel like when we're seeking advice, we're seeking for answers as well. And I also realized in that moment that no one was going to give me the answers I needed, and I had to kind of figure it out myself. But also I did feel that I needed to have like someone older than me, or someone experienced in an area that I wanted to pursue, to give me some sort of like something to go off.
Yeah.
And I was just getting advice from people saying like, oh, don't do it, because if you leave law, like it's risky, or what if it doesn't work out, or
you're like, I love risk, actually.
Yeah, and I'm just like, if not now, when? And then I think I basically was talking to my friends about this, and we were basically saying that when you're constantly seeking advice, you're just avoiding the answer you already know. So I kind of just said, you know what, I don't even need advice anymore. I just need to trust myself. And if it's hard, it's hard.
I really like that. I haven't heard that before. If you continue to seek advice, you're just avoiding. But I think that's so true. So cool. And on that, having like reaching that level of knowledge, let's say, or certainty, what is something else? What is something you've become less certain about as you've gotten older?
Everything. I feel like my perception of the world has changed. Like my understanding of like this idea of like control, like you can't control anything. Just learning to let go.
I really feel you.
Yeah,
I feel like the more I
can't
know,
even pinpoint. The more I know, the less I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And now the floor is yours for anything you'd like to plug, tell our audience to check out, look at, learn from.
The audience. Just like,
yeah, let's talk to them.
I have my Disappointment Daughter series, which I'm continuing to post on both my TikTok and my Instagram. So I'd love for you guys to check it out. I call it my Disappointment Daughter curriculum. I share books that have inspired me to be the person that I am, ranging from subjects from exploring gender in the Middle East to exploring being a woman in general. I love feminist literature. I'm a feminist.
Shout out women!
Shout out women. Shout out being a feminist. And I also share personal stories like the ones I've shared today about how I've navigated disappointing my parents in the most respectful way possible.
Absolutely. Nothing but respect in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to disappoint some people. So on that vein, look into the camera and say something to all the disappointment daughters who are trying to build a life that feels like their own.
Hello, Disappointment Daughters. If you're watching this and you are looking to find a way out of the life that you have now, I would say just forget about everyone else for a moment and forget about past versions of yourself as well. Forget about not only disappointing your parents, but forget about like disappointing yourselves, like past versions of yourself, the loyalties that we hold to ideas of who we thought we should be or who we were supposed to become. Just let go of all of that and just think about who you want to be in this like exact moment. Not to be like cringy or cliche, but you just have to let go. Just like, that's the best advice I can say. Just let go of everything and anyone like trying to sway your opinion or trying to influence your decisions, or allow room for play and exploration and less expectations really of yourself and the outcome. Oh, that's it. detach from the outcome. That's the best advice I can give you, because that's what I've done. Not having so much control over what's to happen if you do something or if you don't do something. Just act, and then whatever happens, happens. And if it's a bad outcome, it's a bad outcome. If it's a good outcome, it's a good outcome. Who cares? As long as you get the experience at the end of the day.
Love that.
Let go! Yay!
Amazing. That was so good.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you guys for coming to our shofa. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, and follow us on our socials. But most importantly, let us know in the comments below who you're interested in seeing on our next one. We might just arrange for them to steal your hearts.